Well, yowza, yowza, yowza. It is 8 minutes past the hour, the seventh day of the new year of 2025, the month of January. Yours truly, Joe Dupree in the building from 100 BLK, the Black Station. But I ain't by myself. It is hashtag truth be told, going three the hard way. Over to my other side is Sister Jax. She's the life strategist, the art therapist, the speaker, the author. Good morning, Sister Jax. How you doing this morning?
I'm wonderful, wonderful. It's chilly out here in the big city. I know it's chilly all around this polar vortex swooning, but I'm wonderful today. God is good. My heart is a little heavy. My cousin lost her husband unexpectedly yesterday, and she and the children tried to administer CPR and revive him, but unfortunately, it was no avail, and God called him home. So, prayers up for my family for that. So we'll be dealing with that today and move forward. But it's still a beautiful day. It's still a
Amen.
beautiful day. How are
Amen.
you guys doing?
You have my prayers and my condolences and our family's prayers and condolences out to you in this time of mourning and unexpected
Mm.
transitions to be with the ancestors. Not only is Sister Jackson in the building, but also is our brother from another mother. You know him from the Open Lines Online and Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. Y'all put your hands together. 1075 WBLS, New York City. Brother Fatim is in the building.
What
Good
up,
morning, brother
Joe? What up,
Fatim. What's
Joe?
happening?
And hey, my brother, good morning. Good morning, Grand Rising. Great Tuesday. And to my sister Jax, is crazy because Jax, I'm not going to say soon, but she got to me yesterday afternoon to pass that news on to me. And then last night, she calls me. And I should have been calling her because she was on that road. And then she had the death in the family. And she called me to check on me. That's the kind of sister she is. You understand what I'm saying? So thank her for her spirit, the kind of spirit, even though when she's going through something. And I'm glad that you was able to make it safely to and fro. But our prayers and condolences are with you. And we say this, but I slow it down for a moment because after you, and I went to my cousin's house last night, and she was telling me that another person, her daughter's, just follow me, her daughter's sister. That means that her daughter's father had another child, has a couple of children. Husband passed of a heart attack,
Mm.
and that's 40 some years old. 40
Wow.
some years old. So, you don't want to sit here and say something is happening. I mean, we went through this through COVID.
Yeah.
We saw people just losing their lives. I remember that really started for me in the 90s because this is where I started to see people shoot up funerals. And I
Mm.
started hearing preachers talking about, I'm burying the young,
Hmm.
and parents saying, my children's supposed to bury me, but we're burying our children and the young.
Hmm.
So, like you said, we don't know. Different people go through different things, Sister Jackson, Joe. But for me, it just makes me slow life down.
It,
So
it, it
it
does for
makes
seeing
me slow life down.
his husband. He was probably about maybe 53 or so, and like he literally just called me last week. A couple
Mm.
days ago, and my kids and I were, on the phone and talking to him. We were making plans to, get together, on Sunday, and just to know that, like, it happened in his home, and his, wife and the kids were there. His daughter was preparing to go back to college, and that morning, and it just, suddenly, occurred. So it definitely is devastating. It breaks my heart. I've known this man since I was probably about 10 years old. He and my cousin, dated since I was when they were in high school. So I've known him, the majority of my life. He would tease me all the time. He would call me Jackson, or he would always call me Hustle Woman because he knew I was always out there making it happen, getting my on, doing what I had to do. But I know he was always just so proud of me, and he was such a family man. And even when I spoke to him, he said, Jack, you know, I'm holding on, not for me, but for my wife and kids. You know what I'm saying? Like he was just getting weary. He was getting weary. And I would try to send him, biblical stuff to try to, uplift his spirits. But sometimes people are going through things and their health is manifesting and going through some things. And he was excited because he had gotten on the kidney transplant list. He was number 6. And so it's just so, unfortunate that, that happened, especially in the way that it did. But he was a really, really good dude, solid guy. So I don't want to release his name yet because his wife didn't even put anything out there. But some of his friends have shared on social media. But big ups to he was like my brother. So big ups.
Yeah, let me just say this real quick, and it's not that you never rush this. And I just think that there needs to be a show about life and death, and it needs to be a show about transitioning, because you can, just to kind of move off of, not to move off of Jax, but just not to put it in the same compartment, is that you can be dead and be walking the earth. And what do I mean? Is that you could be going through something where you're in pain, you're sick, and you just don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Then there's another type of death. Type of death when your world dies. What do I mean? And I had to have this conversation with my friend Val when she lost her mom. And a lot of time us as children, especially adult children, when I use the word children, not in a sense of age, but in a sense of adult children, we look at our parents' world revolving around us. But honestly, we're new to their world. Even though we're special to them, we become their priority. They had a world before us. They had sisters, they had brothers, they had mothers, they had fathers. I hear a lot of people, I watched it in this chat during the holiday season. And also my tree of life got to come down today, January 7th. But on the serious side, holidays ain't the same without mama. Holidays with Big Mama. Holidays ain't the same with Nana. Holidays ain't the same with the father. But I don't remember hearing my mother and father saying that about their mother. That means when we came in the world, our world started to revolve around us and what was around them. But we didn't think, sometimes we don't think, that they had a world before us. So when their sisters and their mothers and their fathers, and then not only that, their music transcends, it goes away. The television shows goes away. All these new things come. You'll see, of course you see nanas and grandmothers are being younger today. It's a little different. But back in the day, they were older. So when their world dies off, they die. Yeah. Because when they turn on the television, it's nothing really to watch. Unless it's cable, and now they can watch Lifetime and the History Channel and watch these old programs and reruns. But if not, they turn on the music. Come on, let's get out here. Let's do this dance, this line. If they get out there and be hip, their world has made that transition. So when my friend lost her moms, I had to have that conversation with her. Say that when she was like, but she had us. I said, baby, she had you. And that's very, very important. But everything else around her died. Yeah. And when that happens, they know that eventually you're going to have to stand on your feet, because they poured into you so that you could be like them or better than them. So that's what life is about. We have to look at it just like the seasons. When we see the leaves pass and die, and we see new trees come, that is the cycle of life. And yes, it hurts because it hurts because of the fun and the interaction we had with them. But we are able to hold on to memories, pictures, voice through recordings, videos, or whatever, and we hold on to them, but don't get stuck there. Yes. That's what life is. And you have to understand that. You understand? I couldn't get stuck there with my late wife. I couldn't get stuck there with my children. I mean, not my children. My children are alive. My mother and father.
Mhm.
You understand? My aunts and uncles. Oh, it pains. No, don't think it doesn't.
Mhm.
But I understand the cycles of life. So just like they were able to move on and have fun during the holidays or whenever the gatherings was, remember, when you lose them and you don't feel like you got any heart and soul, remember that they had heart and soul. Remember the life cycle.
You're right. And you know, Fatim, we sometimes find ourselves getting so trapped and stuck within the cycle of grief, right? And,
Mhm.
you know, it takes me back to when I was, I guess, about maybe 20 years old when my father's mother passed. We called her Graham, right? Big ups to Lydia Hale. So she had passed away, and I was literally going to the cemetery like every week, you know, and it was such a rough, you know, time for me. I'm like, that was my girl, you know, and, you know, she passed away. And then her sister said to me, Aunt Lee said, you know, Jack, you cannot go there to see Graham every week. You know, she's where God needs her to be, you know, so you need to stop so that you can grieve and so that you can move on. So a couple days later, I had a dream that I was literally like at my grandmother's house one last time. And she was, you know, flesh, you know, we were, you know, having a good time. And at the end of the dream, she was like, okay, I have to go now. And when she said, I have to go now, she walked down the stairs, and backed up to the bottom of her stairs was actually a hearse, and the door was open. And as she walked down the stairs, her flesh just started like melting off. And she was a skeleton and like got into the hearse, into the casket. And that was it. And after that, I had such a sense of peace and did not grieve for my grandmother and mourn like I was mourning before. And I was able to transition and move on. But so often we get, you know, we just get stuck, you know, in that. And that's the part where it becomes dangerous, you know, dangerous to our mental health, could become dangerous to, you know, our physical health. And I mean, I take it back to scripture, you know, where it says, let the dead bury the dead. Right. So today it breaks my heart because my cousin Rob, his uncle passed away. Right. I was with his uncle every single day a couple of weeks ago because he was painting my house after the fire. So I was picking him up at the train station, bringing him back home. And he was a dope guy. Every day he was talking about his sons, you know, his, you know, son had just got married, was about to have a baby, talked about life. And he always said one love. Right. And even on his Facebook post, Tony would always post one love at the end of everything. And I've known Tony once again since I was a little girl. And today he's being laid to rest, you know, so it's, you know, it's so unfortunate, but life is so short. And once again, his death was sudden as well. You know, like I said, I was with him every day a couple of weeks ago. Joe even heard him in my car, you know,
Yeah,
and
that's,
I was picking him up.
true.
So,
you know,
I just want to say this real quick because I know see KC in the chat, and she says she's not going to be on here long, and she mentions that she has to go to a cousin's funeral today. So
that's actually the same man I'm speaking
okay,
of.
that's what I want. I didn't want to. Yeah, there you go. So condolences to bring you into that also, KC, and I see that in the chat because she said that she's not going to be here with us long on this. So to both of y'all, you know, our condolences there. Sorry, Joe, I didn't mean to cut you. I know that she has to go. She said she wasn't going to be long in the chat, and I want to make sure that I address and bring that up too as well, you know. But yeah, you're right. It's like this. It's like that. My cousin I was with last night, she said, you know, when she lost her partner, he had just went to the doctor that morning and got a good bill of health. They were playing cards. She told me strip poker, right? They adults, sure. And he went to the bathroom, and then she heard something fall, and he passed right there. So, you know, life, as we say, be lifing, but you understand that, you know, it's not a rarity. It's just that you can't take anything for granted. So I'll leave it there.
That's very true. You know, if anything, it should make you appreciate life itself in your life. Somewhere I read that life is but a vapor, and a vapor goes like, and that's it. You know, Brother Fatim, you said a mouthful, and I like to revisit a couple of things you said. You know, different families have different ways. I came from an adopted family that were storytellers, older storytellers. You know, my father was born in 1910. My mother was born in 1923. And I did hear my mother and father. I remember, I think I was about 7 years old when my mother's mother passed away. But I did remember her always bringing up Grandma May. Always bringing up Grandma May said this, Grandma May said that. You know, and different families operated in different ways. you know, I come from a family where on my adopted family side, I practically know everybody going as far back as I can go back because they were always talking about them. They always had old pictures and would tell old stories about grandfather Frank and grandma May, and on my dad's side, grandma Ethel. You know, these are people that they kept alive with the stories that they told about. Remember this, remember that. They would talk about old hunting stories, old cooking stories, old stories when they had to go through adversity, because back in those days, it was really us against them. It was black folks against white folks, because, you know, my dad said one time how his grandfather, grandfather James, was not going to concede his side of the street, because it used to be you had to, when you saw white folks coming, you had to move to the other side of the street. And he said, grandfather James said, today I'm not conceding my side of the street. I'm gonna look down. I ain't gonna look at them, but I ain't walking to the other side of the street. And he did that past 3 or 4 white folks until a white man stopped him and said, hey boy, ain't you supposed to cross the other side of the street when you see us coming? And he said, and he with his head down said, sir, I couldn't see you. I was looking down.
Oh, shut up. Wow.
And my dad just had me rolling with that. And I said, boy, I'm surprised they didn't try to. He said, oh, he wanted to do something. But he said back in probably his old country mind, he said, yeah, he couldn't see us. He was looking down.
Wow.
You know, and so, you know, stories like that resonates in my family. To you, once again, Sister Jackson, Sister KC, to everybody, because a lot of folks are dealing with right now grief because of the untimely loss of a loved one, be it of natural causes or be it of senseless gun violence or senseless acts of terrorism or senseless, you know, this shouldn't have happened. You know, we had a couple of hit and runs here in my city that I live in right now, where folks were either riding a bicycle or on the side of the road and just senselessly got ran over. Could have been at nighttime, folks couldn't see well. And that goes back to each one of us on doing certain things. Your health is your wealth. And we did a show, and you can go right now to 100 BLK and look at some of the past episodes. I used to do a thing called Mental Health Monday and Wellness Wednesday. Big ups to the professor, the doctor himself, Dr. Edward J. Brown, who is now practicing, doing his practitioner in Houston, Texas. But we had shows where we emphasized about your mental health and the process of grieving. And grieving is a process, and everybody comes into that process from a different perspective and a different manner. So understand this, and this is my new thing moving in 2025 and forward. You may handle and do things differently than I do things. That doesn't mean your way is wrong, doesn't mean my way is right. It means that this is how you cope, and your coping mechanism has to bring you peace to you. Just because you do it a way I don't do it doesn't mean it's the wrong way. Just means that's the way you do it to bring peace to you. Now, if the way you're doing it, you feel like you could do it a better way, and you come to me and ask for advice, I'll tell you what I do, but I'm not telling you that's how you need to do it. I'm telling you, pay attention and look at other things. This is maybe what can help you become a better you.
You're right. And you know what, you also have to be mindful in terms of, you know, coping techniques, because for some people, what brings them peace is a bag of dope, right?
Yeah, that's why I was going to go, Jax. You can't, you got to sometimes steer people back, because sometimes their way is wrong. Sometimes their way is wrong. And sometimes I understand what Joe's saying. He's taking the high road, and I got that. But sometimes people road is wrong. And sometimes you got to be snapped back, because if you go and you go on a downward spiral, you go further and further and further, then it's harder to bring you back up. So sometimes people do things wrong. Is you understand? It's not just their way. It can be the wrong way at times. And when that happens, you got to kind of ease them back. Don't snap them back, because then you break them. You don't want to break a person, but you got to slide them back, because sometimes people's way is not always the right way.
Well, Brother Fatim and Sister Jax, we will both as adults agree that if you're going to gambling, the bottle, illicit sex, crazy conversation, pornography, there's a lot of things that are comfort food to individuals that ain't right. You know, but at the end of the day, you have to tell folks, look, I'm seeing your demeanor and I'm seeing a change in you. and maybe you need to snap back and get yourself back to the old happy, gleeful you. Nobody knows what's going on behind closed doors when the doors are closed and you're not there.
Yeah.
There are folks who are immersed in dope and in alcohol and in gambling and in illicit sex and conversation. Just because we out here looking like outstanding citizens in your face, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And many times that's our problem. We see people at face value, not knowing what's behind the veil.
That's right. That's right. And, we also have to be careful when we are trying to, minister, to those that are dealing with grief or, just people in general that are dealing with substance misuse issues and, alcoholism. We have to be careful that their plight doesn't drag us down, to our demise, because we can help but so much. So we have to still be strong enough to say, I want to help you. But if you see they're still not taking the help, that's okay, because it's maybe not in their time to receive that help. But you just plant those seeds, but you can still love them. Sometimes you just got to love them from a distance, because like I was even talking to a young lady recently, and she was saying that she's going through a divorce. Right. And, she was saying that the guy, her husband was dealing with some mental health things going on. And, she was just like, Jack, let me tell you, like, he was battling depression. He's a successful corporate, like, he's doing it, you know what I'm saying? But behind the scenes, he's so super duper depressed, apparently. And she was saying, like, and she's super successful as well. And she's saying, this shit will make you depressed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know what I'm doing or like what's going on, because now it's affecting me in a way that I can't even imagine, so it's tough. So sometimes, whatever you do in your marriage is your business. But outside of that, your friendships, your other relationships, your family ships, whatever, sometimes you just have to say, you know what, I can't deal with your, suicidal ideation continually, or I can't deal with your whatever, because now it's affecting my mental health. So I have to put barriers and boundaries, and we can't be afraid to put barriers and boundaries. You can still steer them to help, to get, some additional help, give them tips. They take it, they don't. So for me, I know the best thing, I can do is still eventually just pray for folks that they get the healing and the peace that they need and deserve.
Well, with that being said, it is 30 minutes past the hour, and in the green room is our distinguished guest for this Tell the Truth Tuesday on hashtag Truth Be Told, Dr. Shango Blakes, which I will allow the great Brother Fatim from 107.5 WBLS, the open lines online, and keeping it real with Reverend Al Sharpton to hit us with the intro. Go ahead, Brother Fatim.
All right, my brother, and you can, and you can bring his picture on, you can bring his video on. And my thing is, let me just say this message is to, first of all, before I introduce my brother here, this is my brother here, is that to Eddie Bonnet, and peace and good morning, grand risings, and Eddie Bonnet, we've been having some good conversations, and he's a good brother, but Douglas Guidry, see, you say things yesterday, Black Lives Matter. So you don't realize, brother. I wear this. I wore this for you, brother, since you want to blame Black Lives Matter. But the discussion that we're going to talk about today furthers the conversation about Black Lives Matter. Yeah, we know that all lives matter. We got that. But all lives matter. But the reason why Black Lives Matter became a slogan, because it seems like all lives matter except Black lives. That's the issue. We ain't gonna go down that road right now, but you'll see this conversation, and this brother here, I met, and I'm gonna give him his introduction. I honestly met him through his father, Professor James Blake, doing before the Million Man March. What the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did is a year before the Million Man March took place, we had Million Man March meetings in silos across the country. And my brother here, his father was one of the leaders in Queens, and where I was living at the time. I love Brooklyn, born and raised in Brooklyn. I moved to Queens when my first daughter was about 2.5 years old. And I got a chance to meet this brother before he ventured into the world of education. So let me go ahead and introduce my brother. Glad to see him, Doctor. Yes, doctor. When I met him, he wasn't doctor, he was just Brother Shango Blake. Dr. Shango Blake, he widely known as the Nation Hip Hop Principal. Yes, he was on Oprah Winfrey, introduced as that, the Hip hop principal. He is the dynamic president of Black Influencers United, BU, that's BE-U, a transformative network dedicated to empowering Black educators and fostering equity in education. Renowned for his innovative leadership, Dr. Blake bridges culture and education to inspire systemic change and uplift communities. My young cousin, was a student at the school. He was a principal, and he used hip-hop, positive hip-hop, to motivate and inspire the young folks. That's why he was featured on Oprah Winfrey and other places. Put your hands together for my brother. Love this brother here. I love this brother, Dr. Shango Blake, man. Grand Rising, great Tuesday to you, my brother.
Grand Rising to you, brother. Love you too. I'm happy to be on the show and happy to engage, you know, in this conversation with you. So happy to be here. And as you know, Fatin, we got a 30+ year history of soldiering and working within our communities to make our communities a better place for our people, and to fight against systemic racism and to fight for Black lives. So I'm engaged and curious to know what the Black Lives conversation was about. So happy.
There you go. Well, we'll save that one for now. We'll save that one for now. But we're gonna jump into this, and then it'll show. And I think this is so important because we had Brother Principal Kafele on last week. You know, right. And when I mentioned that you was coming on, he was on Open Line online. Not as a guest, but he was in the chat, and he was like, "Oh, you know, he gave you your accolades. Y'all both give each other accolades, well deserved."
Good brother.
And one of the things I talked about on this program is that in New York, in the New York City public education system, there is a Black Studies. We say it just like that: Black Studies curriculum from pre-K up to 12th grade. This has been signed off by the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul. This brother here, Dr. Shango Blake, was instrumental in getting that program implemented. But before we get into the Black Studies, tell people a little bit about your background as a principal, and how did you come to form BU, Black Influencers, and why it's so important?
Yes. Just a point of correction. The governor has not signed off on this.
He hasn't.
No. This is something that is actually the Black Studies curriculum pre-K to 12 it started in New York City, and it's a New York City based movement that we're taking to the state. So I gotta give props to the Speaker of City Council, Adrian Adams, who really championed this through the City Council when we wrote the white paper for it. And so we've been working with New York City Public Schools around, the full public press conference, and then the progress monitoring and implementation. But I'll get to that in a minute. You asked me, how did I get into or why am I the nation's hip hop principal, I believe?
Yeah, talk a little bit about how did you become the nation's hip hop principal? Sure. What in a sense of where that school that you became a principal, where they was at, and how, like you said, how you gained that title in a sense of the work that you put in that school, and where that school was when you started, and where that school was when you left.
So thank you. So it was when I first started, the school was the lowest performing school in the district. The school is located in the Jamaica Queens area. We were so lowest performing in terms of student academic outcomes, low teacher morale, high absenteeism in terms of students, poor community confidence. Parent, it was one of those schools that, we all know the story where parents say, I don't want my child going to that school. That school's gonna, my child's not gonna do well there. So, I think everything that you would say in the way of urban blight existed in that school. And so I whether I knew it or not, whether I wanted it or not, was thrust into the role of a change agent, because as you know, districts have mandates for change. Parents want to see change. And change is always a wonderful word when it's spoken in the abstract, but change is very challenging when it's concrete, when you have to change in order for the greater change to happen. And so, I started engaging parents. The parents at the time, the story, Brother Fatine, they were pressing me as the new principal, and I was interim acting principal at the time. So that meant the district could say goodbye at any minute. And they said, listen, we want to have a uniform policy in our school, and we've tried every year, and every time the students break it, and we think it's part of the impact in terms of the environment. So make a long story short, I agreed to implement a uniform policy. I said to the parents, I'm going to need your assistance, because one of the things that happens is that any rule that exists in most of these schools, there's always like another rule that is like
contradicting
that rule. Yeah. So if I'm the principal and I say, listen, we're gonna have uniform, and I get at the time over 90% of the parents to say yes, this is what we are adopting as a school community, there's always a clause that says, but you can opt out. So in essence, my work is being undermined in the same breath. So I point that out to say that I implemented the uniform policy. I challenged the district. I fought with the city. I got the parents mobilized around this change. And then the last group that I had to convince, and I want to use this language, convince, because I think that when you work with young people, it's not always about telling them what they have to do, or if you don't do this, you're going to get this kind of consequence. I think it's important to engage in a dialogue with young people. And so that's how the whole hip hop project began. The students didn't want to wear the uniform. I told them, listen, why don't you want to wear the uniform? Their response was that by me making them wear the uniform, I was robbing them of their individuality. And my response was, but you're not an individual. So I'm going to give you context. This is 2002, 2003. I said, you wear the same do-rag on your head, same pants halfway down your behind, same white t-shirt, same flag in the back pocket. I said, y'all are all wearing a uniform. I said, and this uniform has been marketed to you at the time by,
the propaganda machine.
Raps, or right. And so you're wearing something that is conditioning you into a mindset that is not going to be leading to successful outcomes, but is actually self-destructive. And of course, students being students, middle school students at that, their response was boo. Because they're middle school students. They're like it sounds great to an adult mind, but to an adolescent mind, they don't want to hear that, right? But I still engaged them. Gave them an opportunity to rebuttal, and we had this ongoing dialogue. One student actually pressed me in a very intelligent way. And he said, well, if you make us wear the uniforms, you're going to make us the suckers and the targets of Queens, because all the other schools are going to think that we're the soft school, and you're not going to be there when we, go back and forth to school. And so you're putting us in an unsafe situation. And that was that was a thing that I hadn't considered when implementing it. Long story short, by his response, I started a parent patrol group called PEST, standing for Parents Empowering Students Today. They ended up securing a 5-block radius in any direction of the school. And so it became a parent community engagement police. Peace. They worked with the police department. They worked with the store owners, the homeowners, and it became this thing where parents were actively involved with their children's education in a different way. But the fact that this young man pressed me and said that he wasn't going to be safe, I pulled out the sky, literally out the sky. I said, well, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna make a hip hop song. And for the purposes of school, we're gonna make wearing uniforms, being intelligent, striving for academic achievement. We're gonna make that cool. And we're gonna make not wearing uniforms uncool. So so all those other schools are gonna look at you and wish that they were at your school. And so that's literally how it happened. We started with a song one year, it evolved into video production, and we literally what started as a conversation led to a huge project where you had students who were producing videos, producing raps, marketing those videos, budgeting those videos, using the technology to edit those videos. So all the prerequisite learning targets at the time were being implemented. So if you know anything about school, there's always standards. And in New York, they have standards on the smart board that they refer to when they're teaching a lesson. But a lot of times those standards are just like window dressing. This made the standards real, relevant, and alive, because students they had to, for example, in math, right? So they had to figure out how to produce a quality video under budget, what was the price point that they were going to put into the market so that they could recoup a profit. So now we're using all the graphs and the charts and the data and math, and we're applying it in real life. If it was writing or literacy, right? When you write, you rewrite, you revise, you edit. When you storyboard, you sequence. When you write an argumentative essay, you're writing from a point of view. When you're filming a shot, you're taking the POV shot. So now we're making the connections between what you're learning in school and how it can be applicable to your life. The problem with school is that all we do is school.
Come on, that part.
We don't do school from the standpoint of having purpose and meaning. And this is why most students, myself included, when I was in school, struggled with math. You know why? Because we learned formulas for a test, and when the test was over, we forgot the formulas.
That's right.
But what about taking the formulas and applying it to a specific project? So that's what the video became. It became a project-based learning interdisciplinary piece. And what ended up happening was that the students were the filmmakers. They were behind the cameras. They were the ones that were dealing with the lighting. They were the ones that were dealing with the sound and learning how sound influences a video production. They were the ones doing the grips, all the technical pieces. They were the ones who were the student film directors. They were the rappers. They were the set designers. They did all of this stuff, and what ended up happening is because we incorporated this into their everyday learning, the connections were made, and it was one of the major reasons that our school went from the lowest to number one in reading and math, number one in science, and a school that nobody wanted their children to go to one of the most sought after schools. And I got to tell you, one of the things that was a byproduct of this that I didn't anticipate was that it actually impacted and improved teacher morale. Teachers said that they were engaging their children in a different way, building these relationships, having fun in the learning process. And that's one of the things I talk about in my dissertation, that learning, I believe I created a theory called fun in learning. That learning is supposed to be fun. Right. That too many people say, well, learning is not supposed to be fun. Says who?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be fun. Think about, I learned more on Saturdays. I'm dating myself. On Saturdays, watching Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah, I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill.
Yeah,
and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill.
Without mother necessity, where would we be? Right, like so. All of these things, even when you learn the alphabet, it's done in a rap.
Come on,
that's right.
Every word that you stop at rhymes with the other word.
Come on.
A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T U V W X Y Z. Now I just made a rap. I just changed it. I flipped it. But you learned that because it was put to a rhythm.
Come on.
And it was put to a rhythm and a rhyme. So you can't tell me that hip hop and education do not support each other. The problem is that hip hop went in a certain trajectory and education went into a certain trajectory. Education went the route of becoming very sterile and disconnected with young people, non-engaging, not teaching them of their history, which we'll talk about. And hip hop evolved into other genres of hip hop, like, you know, the gangster, the drill, the this, and that. But the reality is that the gangster, the drill, and all of those things are just one slither
Come
of
on.
what hip hop is.
Come on.
So
That's
if you're going to talk hip hop, you got to talk about what were the 4 pillars, really 5 pillars that hip hop stands on. And then when you understand those 5 pillars and you understand the social conditions that led to the development of hip hop in New York City,
Yep.
then you will understand that when they cut the music programs in New York City,
Mm-hmm.
you had all these young people with creative energy and nowhere to place it. When in the Bronx, when the Bronx was burning and they were burning people out of their house due to landlord schemes to get insurance money, these burnt down buildings, the people there sprayed on those buildings to make beautiful murals to say that humanity still exists. The graffiti is not it was not done as a crime. It was done to say we're here, because at the time no one thought that anything good could come out of the Bronx. So these are the 2 separate roads that these 2 industries went. All I did was bring them back together, because if it wasn't for what happened in the 70s, hip hop would have never existed.
Come on. Come on.
If we didn't deal with the economic crisis of the 70s under Mayor Lindsay, we wouldn't have what we call hip hop. And so, you know, there's a relationship there. And so I brought that relationship back for the purposes of producing academic excellence in children. And that's why I'm the nation's hip hop principal.
So let me just move this along a little bit so we can get everybody in. But I want to get to, so just briefly, because you got the spotlight, but the school and the students got the spotlight. You know, because I didn't even know my cousin went to your school at the time. I just didn't know. So you got a video to me, a VHS tape at the time.
Yes.
I popped it in and I was like, yo, there go my cousin, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, we featured you on Open Line.
Yes.
I want you to talk about, because I want you to get to BU, which you have the jacket on, Black Influencers, how you got there, so we can get the rest of my team into the conversation. But with all this done, and you see the enthusiasm, and Joe's blowing horns and ringing bells and whistles, just like we as a people applaud and uplift this kind of achievement, and we talk about standing up and doing. And when a brother or a sister like this brother here stood up, oh, it comes with a price.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it comes with a price. They came after brother. And they succeeded of taking him out. Not physically, in the sense of his life. He got him out of that school. But talk about how it reached to get to Oprah, because I just want to hit that, because it's not about just using Oprah, but let's be real. To be on Oprah, to talk about what you've done, not doing it for that, and for the kids' morale and the teachers' morale, as you just said, of folks seeing that, and then other folks viewing that and saying, I can take those jewels and apply them to my schools. Talk about, you know, in a sense of how it got to that part. And then briefly talk about how they came at you. And honestly, by knocking you down, they made you better, brother, because where you at today is because of what happened to you in the past.
Absolutely. So the Oprah piece happened as a result of a program that we had in our school. We were the only school in the country, middle school country, that had a middle school in the country that had a pre-nursing program, right? And so we had started teaching students pharmacology, how to, you know, examine a person's blood pressure, CPR. And by the time and I want to shout out Sam Green, who was a registered nurse and a teacher, who really, him and my assistant principal at the time, Colleen Connery, wrote the curriculum. And so in this curriculum, students were really being organized to get their LPN by the time that they were 18. And we had a partnership with Hillcrest High School, which was a school that was kind of dedicated to like looking at health sciences and things of that nature. This one particular student, he went home and his aunt went into emergency labor. He took what he had learned from the class that he was taking at my school, and he delivered the baby.
Middle school student. Middle school student.
And so he went on. I mean, you know, so it just became a feeding frenzy in New York. It was all over New York. Then he went on People magazine, and then both Helen and Oprah were vying for the story. It was a serious like back and forth. Of course, you know, one of Oprah's producers said at the end, when we were still in indecisive mode, she said, "Mr. Blake, this is Oprah." I was like, "You're right." And so we ended up, you know, so that's how we ended up on Oprah. We ended up being in the Tribeca Film Festival for 2 years in a row. HBO used us as a national model. So Oprah really came through as wanting to tell this story about the student, but when they got there, they saw that there was a deeper story happening at the school, and so that's how that happened, and you know, that's how the moniker "The Nation's Hip Hop Principal" happened. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to brag a little bit. There's no other person or group that used hip hop to transform a low-performing school that happened prior to this experience. And now when I look across the country, I see schools all across the country.
Yeah.
I see Hamilton. I see the Clark Academy. I see all of these people. And they all copied what they saw us doing because we were out there in the public in a very national way. But as Fatine said, no good deed goes unpunished. So it's almost like they rose when I was attacked and the pressure was on me. They rose when as a result of my absence, right? And so, but the work didn't stop because you see that they continued with the work, and we're proud of that. The thing is, in terms of BU, right? Because the for me, my personal reason for wanting to start BU was because I wanted to create a movement for Black educators throughout this country. And I wanted to, I know so many Black educators that are doing great work for our children. They love our children. They understand our children. They come from where our children come from. But who's protecting them as they go about doing their work? And so we wanted to create an umbrella for the new Mr. Blakes and whomever else that are coming up now, reaching young people in this space and time, and say, while you go about doing that innovative, creative work, the system is going to come against you because they don't really want our children educated. Because if you have an educated populace and you have people who can critically think, then you can't easily manipulate them. If you have children that are going out into the world saying, we don't want to be constant consumers, we want to be producers. You know, we want to create, we want to own our own businesses, we want to control economy, then the whole game is over. So when you have educators who are really doing that work, they'll let you do it to a certain degree. But when you really start making impact, best believe they're going to come for you. So myself, a gentleman by the name of George Patterson, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Bernard Gassaway, a gentleman by the name of, y'all might know him, he former New York Chancellor, David Banks. We all got together and we were like having this conversation around what our children need. And we said, rather than just continuously talk about it, you know, in the shadows, let's bring this conversation to the public. And we had a seminal event called the Gathering of Black Educators. And when we called that event, we were amazed by how many Black educators came out and how much what we were talking about in terms of the importance of Black educators educating Black children, how much that resonated. And so that began a movement that led to the development of Black Influencers United. And from there, more and more people came aboard. And our vision is that we serve Black educators, we influence others, and we impact Black children. We're organized into several committees where people come and they do that work, from our culture and community committee to our advocacy committee to our policy committee, to our social committee, to, I got to remember more because I don't want somebody beat me up later on, to our social and to our membership committee. So we are like 10 toes down working towards uplifting Black children. We have a 7-point actionable item agenda. And one of those item agendas is the integration of Black Studies curriculum into the school. So this didn't just come like somebody had an idea. This is a group of Black educators getting in rooms, planning over underground for 3 years, coming up out of it for 2 years. We consider ourselves to be a movement, and we're moving in a collective way, to really institute and implement change. And I'll say that, got to give a shout out to my vice president, Michelle Patterson, who is very strategic in what we're doing, because she has a duality. She works for the New York City Public Schools. She's the lead advisor on disproportionality. So she's constantly looking at inequities in education. And at the same time, she's the VP of BU and the president of the Black Caucus of the CSA. The reason I bring that up is because our organization is an interlocking of several organizations.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. I mean, you have said 20 mouths full. So we definitely appreciate all the work that you do. And I love how you talk about basically you're shifting the mindset, of a people. And I love how you moved from involvement to engagement, because we know it's a huge difference. And so you really, shifted that paradigm, and instead of just being involved and teachers standing in front of the classroom teaching the kids, you actually taught them how to become engaged with those children. And I also love how you incorporated music and hip hop and the arts just as a whole, because you didn't just teach them how to be a rapper or a basketball player, because we know in urban schools, that's what most of the kids want to be, a rapper or a ball, right? So you taught them the behind the scenes stuff, that where the real wealth actually, lies, in the business acumen behind that. So I think that's phenomenal. So shout out to you. So when you think about the urban plight, right, and urban blight, what do you see in terms of what the families, because it all starts at home, right? So being that it all starts at home, what do you see that our families are doing well and not so well?
That's a great question. And I want to shout out the parents, because what I didn't tell you about Black Edfluencers United is we say edfluencers, not educators, because we want to have anybody who wants to impact and influence what's happening in education as it relates to Black children. So we have parents in our organization. They're not window dressing. We're not paying lip service to them. They sit in our core leadership team as leaders. So I think about the advocacy committee and the Kaya Royal, who is the leader of that. He's a parent, right? And so that becomes important, so that we wanted to make an organization that was open to all, bringing everybody from our village under one roof, instead of us speaking to each other in silos and not and only in times of contentious conversations. So one thing parents can do or are doing well is parents are looking at what's happening in terms of policy. They're raising their voice now. I'm seeing more parents advocate for what the needs of our children, and they're educating themselves in terms of the history of education in this country. And I think organizations like myself and organizations like the Black Caucus of the CSA, the Adelaide Sanford Institute, organizations like ABNY, the Association of Black Educators in New York, that we all have that common purpose, right? And parents are engaged with organizations like that in order to educate themselves so they can be empowered to advocate for their children in a way that leads to positive student outcomes. I think that parents are under a lot of pressure, especially in this current economic situation, right? So when you think about like, okay, do I go to a meeting or do I go get this second job? You know, I'm going to get the second job because I got to take care of the basic needs. I got to make sure that my children are eating. So sometimes parents can't always be at parent meetings, you know, or they're dealing with what I would call systemic racism, which or institutional racism, I would say, is that some parents are under so much pressure because of they're dealing with multiple institutions in a day. They might have to go get a housing voucher in the morning. They might have to deal with the court system later on because of maybe one of their children got in trouble. Then they got to come to the school and deal with an issue in school. So they're constantly under this kind of pressure. And I think that I think that we should be looking at, and when I say we, institutions, how we show up with parents and understand their plight. If I was a parent, I didn't have a great experience in school, and now my child is in this same system, I'm going to go to the system hostile because I felt it did me a disservice, and I'm seeing it happen with my child now. And then I'm walking in out of all these different institutions, court, housing, and all these things. So I may not show up with a smile. I may not show up friendly. I may show up with anger, right? But that's where I think principals need to be re-educated on how to engage parents and community, right? Because if you understand all the dynamics that I just laid out, then your approach to that parent and the way you engage that parent is going to be different. You're going to have empathy. You're going to have a level of patience. You're going to try to figure out how to solve the problem, right? So I think that what parents need to do better is when they meet principals who are like that, don't allow your trauma, your past trauma, to not see that you have a leader in your school who's really advocating for your children. So just like parents don't want to be brushed with one bit broad stroke, don't broad stroke school leaders, because there are leaders out there who actually get it and want to engage and do something to benefit the community.
So Dr. Blake, I have, first of all, let me give you your accolades. You said a mouthful and a plethora of stuff that I hope that when people replay this, they catch it. First of all, you put an engagement together that was uncommon, untested, unproven, but you included the community. Because watch this, you said something that I had to remember as a parent myself, as I have raised and still raising 5 children, 4 in adulthood, 1 that's transferring into adulthood.
Nice.
From that feeling they get, because I remember how many times in my hard work days when my children would come home and be so excited about the school they were at. And see, that was something that that ignited a spark within the community. Because when, believe it or not, nothing makes a parent feels better when their child come home and say, "Guess what I learned today?"
Yes.
And see,
right.
that from also a social, economic, and an economic perspective, you brought in and said, "Look, let me show y'all how to use these practical formulas that we learn every day that most of us felt back in our day was, man, this is some boring stuff. This calculus here, y times x plus 3, this is some boring." But you put it into a place where this is how you make the budget for the video. This is how you work on the script for the video. You did so much to bring in a entrepreneurial spirit into them young folks that they said, not only can we do this, but we can get paid doing this. That ignited an economic boom, I'm sure, in the community, because I would love to see some of those beginning students and where they're at today. Those are your accolades. You went into uncharted territory where you probably got attacked from every corner. Why are you doing this, bro? This is crazy. And see, and it probably came from most folks that look just like me and you. You probably got more black and brown hate than you did non-melanated hate. Because many a times we're the biggest critics of self. But through it all, you persevered. You went through, and even in your dismissal, you saw the ideas that you put in place be taken by others who may not have even given you credit, and they blossom and bloom. And at the end of the day, you were about the greater good of the people and not about self. I want you to talk about the impact our communities can have, especially when I'm in the state of Louisiana. And if you look at this map of red and blue, there are more states that would reject, like Louisiana. Louisiana, this school system, this state would reject you if you tried to show up in any shape, form, or fashion. With the attack on DEI and the attack on right now, everybody's on the same playing field. You shouldn't look back about what it occurred that put us there, because we all didn't have the same starting point at the race. You know, black folks had to stay back while white folks had to get 5 meters to the finish line, and then somebody said, go. And then they want to know why we didn't win. How do we begin in silos in the South? Because I'm in the South. I can't talk about the tri-state area. How do we begin to implement? And I would love, I'm gonna send you in the private chat my information. I would love, because I do work with Southern University, Grambling State University, Xavier University, some of our top HBCUs. And I would love to get you in contact with you to talk to some of the up and coming teachers, and maybe even get you into some of these spaces to have the conversation to those who are going through the learning process to become an educator, to save our people, black and brown folks. Talk to me about the impacts our community can have and what we should start doing in places outside the tri-state area to begin to implement the programs that you did to save our kids.
So hold on, before Dr. Blake go, great point, Joe, and not to take away from that, but let's tie in something so we don't have to do this like a double thing, because we didn't cover the Black studies. So tie in that. I'll use that
as an example.
Yeah, use that as, and then one thing that Joe said about the young folks is something I said yesterday. I smile, but it pains me. Sometimes we as adults make mistakes. And sometimes we have to realize our mistakes, and then sometimes it looks harsh. I said yesterday, sometimes we got to can't continue to say to our children certain things, stand up, do this, stand up, but we don't do it. And when you talked about, when Joe just went there and talked about business, and you're telling children to create this and create that, and not just to create, but to learn and to monetize, we got to learn to be more business oriented, because a lot of times, because of the survival of us as a community and as a people, we are about giving back. And sometimes we give back freely, and we understand that. But we got to understand that we got to become more business minded. And you was blessed to sit with Brother Mtume. And you know that this brother was about business, and he was about giving back, but he was about business. I bring a talent to the table. I got to be compensated, because the white boys, they do that. We can't to do that as well. But that being said, that's just a sidebar. Tying what Joe said along with the Black studies, because with the attack, as Joe said, DEI, the attack on Black education, Black history, Black books, Black thought, tie all that in, especially as Joe said in the South.
So Joe, first of all, I knew your voice sounded familiar to me.
What's up?
My mother is from Shreveport.
Oh,
well, I said, he sounds like home, right? Because I'm one of those New York boys that would go, you know, my parents would send me back to the South, like, go get some culture, boy, you know.
Yes, sir.
I'm one of those. And she actually graduated from Southern University.
Okay.
So like, this conversation is like a breath of fresh air. I want to say that to both of you, and for Teen's point, BU is based out of New York, but our goal is to become a national organization. Amen. So I welcome the conversation with anybody in that part of the country to see how that can be done. I'm going to just take an example from what I went through at the school that I was principal of in the Queens. When they attacked me, one of the reasons why I was vulnerable is because it was me, and I was kind of like a pioneer, and everything you said, people didn't understand, and then there were others that tried to make it like in something that it wasn't. One of the things I learned from that process was that me going alone by myself is like a solo act, right? And what we need in order to be effective is we need a choir, because it's harder to, you see, we had a superintendent that recently became under attack in New York City. And it was the New York Post, and they were really kind of reminding me of some of the stuff that they did to me. But the difference was that Black Influencers United wrote an op-ed, right? And that was the first time that they had a group, an organized group, respond to something that was happening to principals, an organized group of educators. And so it's powerful. You can't deny if you have a group of organized educators that are saying this is a problem. But if it's just me defending myself, then it's easy for me to be picked off. Now, with Black Studies curriculum, it's that same collective approach that we use to get the Black Studies curriculum implemented. It was BU, right? It wasn't just BU. It was an organization called ABNY. It was an organization. United Way joined us. Eagle Academy Foundation, and then ultimately BERC is the Black Education Research Center, a group of Black scholars out of Columbia University who actually wrote the curriculum. We came together as a collective, and we pushed for this Black Studies curriculum to the city council. Then the Black educators came together with the Black electeds, the Black city council people. So now you got Black politicians and Black electeds sitting across the room from each other, talking for the first time. And so the information that was shared was so empowering, because I remember that the city council rep said, we didn't even know that there wasn't a Black Studies curriculum in New York City. Right. But absent of that conversation, how would you know? So it's this collective push. It's this. Kwame Ture always talks about organization. That was his famous, quotable, right? He said, if you're not organized, then you cannot be effective. And I'll one up that. This organized righteousness will never be organized oppression. We have
to say that. Say that again, Doc. Somebody missed that one. Say that one again.
Organized righteousness will never beat organized oppression. We have to be organized. So we organized around the Black Studies curriculum. We worked towards not, and then in terms of what you were saying, Joe, about community engagement, we didn't just write the curriculum in a traditional sense and then say, here's the curriculum. We took that same spirit of engagement. We went to barbershops, beauty salons, to laundromats, to parent meetings, to community-based organization meetings, crisscrossing the city of New York, talking to specific stakeholders groups well before the curriculum was finished. We created pilots in 2 districts and developed strong models. Then it expanded to 18, right? And now we have it available to all schools. So we tested it, we tweaked it, we looked at it, we made sure that it was right. We had teachers say, does this make sense? So by us doing that, we created the public will for it to happen in New York. If you think about DEI, and if you think about culturally responsive, sustaining education, and I agree with you, they would run somebody like me out. But one of the reasons they would run me out is because they've done a good job in creating a false narrative.
That part.
So when a parent stands up, a white parent stands up somewhere in America and says, this curriculum is harmful to my child, and the cameras put that all over the country, that narrative is what influences policymakers. This is why BU has a policy division, and we're concerned about politics and policy. So what we did was we said, let's go out into the community. Let's create our own videos documenting the success. Let's change the narrative to the true narrative, which we have found is that this curriculum is not harmful. It actually produces healing, and it's good for Black children, but it's also good for all children. See, and that's the narrative that we're coming with, but that's because we didn't just roll out the curriculum, we rolled out stakeholder engagement with the curriculum simultaneously.
Right. So let's talk about real quick, because you know, with a new administration coming in, people are becoming emboldened in so many different ways. You know, we sometimes we look at it from the worst thing, from brutality and things like that. But we see the momentum with the wins against affirmative action.
Yes.
We see the wins against DEI. And you see certain wins in certain states like Florida. I remember 2 years ago, there was a gentleman that was in Florida to speak about Black history, and they shut him down.
Yeah.
So how important, even though you say all children, not just our children, could benefit from the Black Studies curriculum, but I really want you to explain why it is important, because some folks, possibly some in this chat, feel, well, you know, if we teach you history, their story, his story, not our story, then you don't get the full story. So how important is this to go to everywhere, not just New York, not to the northern states, but to everybody? And are you brothers and sisters prepared? Because we say, we got to be prepared. We don't know what's going to be thrown at you, but you know things are going to be coming at you to attack what's going on in New York, as well as you try to implement across the country in other places.
Yes. The answer, I'll start with the second question first. We have been preparing ourselves. This is why we made sure that it wasn't just a group, one singular organization. We reached out to a number of organizations, a number of stakeholders, from parents to electeds to community leaders. So again, we're responding with the chorus. I just feel like when from what I've seen, when CRSE or anything Black Studies or Black History is attacked, I don't hear the response. I haven't heard it. I haven't heard like the overwhelming response that tells the counter narrative. So we have been organizing the whole time, and we are well prepared to counter that narrative. It is important that this Black Studies is taught and goes throughout the country, and that all children are taught it, because I want to point out something very important. And I said it earlier. This is not a standalone curriculum. This is not a curriculum where you take a class separate of the other classes that you already taken. The way the curriculum is written is it's anchored in social studies, but it's interdisciplinary. So you can use, and that's why we said Black Studies, not history. So you can use literacy to teach it. You can use art, science, math to teach it. The only thing we're doing is looking at what's the existing curricula and saying, where were Black people omitted? That's important.
Yeah.
Where, like listen to
That
what I'm
part.
saying. Where were Black people omitted? And we're going back in and saying, here's a point of entry, here's a point of entry, here's another access point, here's a point of entry. Because if you understand how lessons are taught, they usually are taught with an essential idea, right? Or so you could be talking about something like the Great Migration. Where's Black people in that story? If you're going to talk about Greek, Rome, and ancient civilizations, classical civilizations, where's Egypt, Ethiopia? Where are they in that story?
Right.
So we're and actually, I always say this to people. People say, because I was challenged by a white gentleman who said, "Well, you know, shouldn't you be more inclusive?" You know, I know you're saying Black, but shouldn't you be more multicultural? And my response was, when you include what has been historically excluded, that is an act of inclusion.
That part.
That's right.
And Dr. Blake.
And that's when honesty is of utmost importance to me.
Yes.
Right.
Dr. Blakes, you brought up something that if people would really think about it from the perspective of, let's just go into Greek mythology. If you go into Greek mythology, if you ask yourself, how many of the Greek gods are Greek gods of color? None. So when he says that, then you have to ask the question back sometimes. When you taught us about Zeus, Apollo, Hades, you didn't put no Black and brown folks in there. So what? Black and brown folks are excluded from being gods?
In the Bible. They did that damn thing in the Bible. They lied.
But deeper than that, deeper than that,
come on, brother. Come on, Doc Blake.
The Greek mythology is rooted in ancient African.
Come on, in Egypt. Come on.
They stole it. That's right.
Ra, come on. Imhotep, come on.
Disney has made a lot of money off of Thor.
Yeah.
Okay, come on.
The God of Thunder.
Yeah.
That's my name. Shango is the God of Thunder.
Come on. Come on. Come on.
What I'm saying? And when we start to do the history, we learn these things.
That's right.
Yeah.
Dr. Blake.
Yeah. And as you go ahead, Sister Jax. No. Look, you haven't spoken much. Go ahead, Sister Jax.
I was just gonna say, even how it ties into the Dark Ages. They taught us in school something. What the Dark Ages is totally different than what the Dark Ages was truly about. You know, so right. And you know, it's amazing because I know there are a lot of other grants. It's the top of the year. A lot of other grants are coming out. I was honored recently to be written into another grant and contract some workshops. They want me to do it on positive development and cultural enrichment. So it's going to kick off during Black History Month. But, you know, I speak about that all year long. You know, everywhere I go, I tie in our history when working with the children. So it's so imperative that, you know, the work that you're doing and you want to span it across the globe because people need it. We've been lied to for so long, and it's time for a complete paradigm shift of the educational system. And it takes brave soldiers like you, Dr. Blake, to get out there and blaze that path, to fight, to teach our children, and also to teach their parents. Right. So it's all about the multi-generational approach, because when we just teach the children and they go home to their parents and the parents are still saying it's a white Jesus or saying, you know, some other stuff that they were taught in school that is not correct. Like you're talking about the whole Greco-Roman and all that kind of stuff. We need to also not just teach the children, but teach their parents or caregivers as well.
You know, I just want to say something that's two things that are very important. One is that I think that, you know, Brother Fatin asked why is this important? I think the biggest problem that we have as a people is a knowledge problem, right? And I think when you know, in the tradition of Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Minister Farrakhan, the list goes on, when you have knowledge of self, you act differently. I have had principals and teachers report back to us that they're seeing a shift in the way their children are behaving as a result of them participating in the Black Studies curriculum. One principal in particular said that she had a group of hall walkers. They always walked the hall. And she said they were going to the class and not walking the hall. They, you know, she said they still walked the other periods. So she got to work on that. But she said they were engaged. That's right. And one day she caught them in the hall having a debate about something that they were learning in the Black Studies curriculum. So these things are critically important. And the other thing I want to say is that I have a gift for you guys, and I'm going to send it to Fatin so he can send it out. But the Black Studies curriculum, although it is a New York City curriculum, it is open to the public at large, which means I can send you the curriculum and you could be right now in Louisiana actually teaching the courses that are embedded in there. It's open. So that's another way for us to like start in New York and expand out. And I think that that's critically important. And the last thing is that the Black Studies curriculum, we named it Black intentionally. We did not name it African American. because we're talking about the experience of Black Americans. We're talking about ancient African civilization. We're talking about the African diaspora. We're talking about Haiti, Barbados. We're talking about Trinidad. We're talking about Guyana. We're talking about the global Black experience, which then for us as a people, it makes this curriculum a unifying curriculum.
Amen. Amen.
Dr. Blakes, please take my information. Dr. Renee from Southern University, who is one of the chancellors over the multimedia department, just texted me and said, make sure that you cook up, that I can connect you through your mother with some folks at Southern. They are very interested in, and we need some implications across the South through our networks of HBCUs, especially in the SWAC, from Jackson State, the Texas Southern, the Prairie View, the Florida A&M, all in between the Alabama states, the Alabama A&Ms, to begin to have the conversation that you have. And we definitely want to get engaged with you about that for the greater good of our people, especially our people that are down here that are a little bit sometimes in the fog of some things that are happening across the United States and in other places.
Amen. And Dr. Blake, real quick, Fatine, I love how you mentioned a knowledge problem, right? And so to take it even a step further, I would even say we suffer from an acknowledge problem, right? Because we don't want to accept truth. So we have to really hone in on that. An acknowledge problem is what we really have.
I love that.
Before because and Dr. Blake, my brother, we talked about this. You coming on this program for over a month now, and I'm just glad that we got you on here on this week here. You got to realize, I'm talking to our folks in the chat, that this is just part of our fight. You understand? Our fight here in the struggle. This is about education, but folks, don't get sidetracked that this is a fight for everything. So when we look at it from an educational point of view, don't just leave this in the educational lane.
Absolutely.
Because this is not just about education. It's about the upliftment of us as a people and the things that we talk about to motivate and inspire you. Because just to take this little thing, we got into a big debate on here about the whole thing with the 10 Commandments. In Louisiana, they trying to put it in the public school system, which you can't do, which I told you they can't do it because of the thing of separation of, of the school. It was exactly. But if you want to do that, if I was a parent, I'll be like, whoa. Because I said, I don't have a problem with coming up with 10 points, but you don't have to go to the Bible to do that. You can develop that yourself. But before we even do that, if you want to do that, if you want to do that and you're doing it from the goodness of your heart, then let's correct some of the things in the Bible that y'all have been perpetuating that has been truth and that is not true. If you want to do that. So that's what Dr. Blake is trying to say, is that you got to wake up. And a lot of folks, that's why sometimes I get frustrated, and I'm passionate about it, but I also understand that there's different grade levels where people are at. And a lot of times, a lot of people are ignorant. Now, when I use the word ignorant, that's not a negative word. That means lack of knowledge, that some people just don't have some of the knowledge that you may have at that point in time. And since you don't have it at that point in time, hold on, yo. If you don't have it at that point, hold on. At that point of time, then you got to realize you got to inform. You got to teach. That's why I keep saying we love a good damn sermon, but we don't implement the sermon. We got to get people that teach, not just preach. Because once you cut off that preacher or that person or the head, the whole body dies. And that's what we got to get together as a people and understand this is about unity across the board. Just like Dr. Blake, and he's working with other educator organizations. Trust me, he's working with more organizations to uplift us as a people. And that's what you got to understand. And that's why this platform is so important, because it's not just in one region, it's across the globe. It's just not domestically, it's internationally. And this is why people try to silence these kind of programs. And it's sad when we are not on, because this is the kind of information that some of them folks don't want to get out. But this is so important, because I'm watching the people in the chat And I know we got a caller there, but I just want you to understand, because everything, Dr. Blake, this is what we do. This is what I live. That's why I get so passionate on this show at times, because some of y'all are so sleep that you're sleepwalking and don't realize your damn power.
Hold on. So with that being said, phone lines are open, 225-250-8770. We give you not only the opportunity to engage in the chat, and right now I'm looking at over 1,500 people who are not engaged in the chat that are just watching, and we appreciate all of you. Thank you for tuning in to hashtag Truth Be Told. It is 33 minutes past the hour. We normally go to the top of the hour, but I'll go as long as we need to go today, because this information is necessary for the greater good of our people. So let's go to the phone lines. Caller, say your name. Tell us where you caller from. Question or comment. Let's go.
I'm Timothy Malone. I'm calling from Lafayette, Louisiana, man. I just want to say that everything that this brother, this doctor, is speaking, man. We need to make sure that this is implemented with our kids from kindergarten to high school to college, bro. Because and like Brother Fatigue saying about the Bible, let's correct the Bible, bro. When we're gonna talk about that, we got everybody want to paint the picture of Jesus Christ, bro. In the Bible, it tells us that God has skin of bronze, hair of wool, eyes of fire, but that's my grandfather. That's a black man.
That's right.
We need to quit. We need to really, and like he said, we really need to be there for one another, bro. This is what we need. This is, I mean, the brother educated the kids with rap, bro, positive rap. Where they created videos, where they did their own shooting, where they did their own thing, bro. This is education about life. This is what it's about, bro. Teach us something that we could live and learn to love one another. That's true love, bro. That's from the heart. That's of God. That's of man. That's what God wanted to do, to implement true love and to help one another. But this curriculum could save the world if we believe in it and we get behind it, bro. Because you got to understand, America, bro, was not built to help us blacks. Like people, Black Lives Matter. All lives matter, bro, but Black Lives Matter because we've been written out of history from the beginning, bro. From the beginning. We got to learn. I'm a street dude, bro. I'm a street dude that was taught, I'm going to bring back, like I was taught how to survive and hustle on the street, bro. But it was always with true love. I couldn't do nothing until I was about 17, bro. I couldn't do nothing. The dudes wouldn't let me get a package, and that was just weed. Nowadays, they'll throw some hair on and everything to a kid that's 13 years old, bro.
Yeah.
So if we throw these kids this educational system with doctors feeding them right now, starting from kindergarten, we could stop a whole lot of stuff because we're gonna give them knowledge, power, and business, brother.
That part.
Knowledge, power, and business. I just love the conversation, bro. I would love to get that in schools out here, bro. Because like you said, we didn't vote. We say our vote don't count. And we end up getting this new governor. And he want to get more time. He taking away parole. So, bro, we need to educate ourselves and quit. We have to be there for one another, man. Quit getting bamboozled. Quit take the veil off our own eyes about the system. The system not gonna save us blacks, bro. The system is against us to lock us up. Look, the system is to take the fathers out the house, man. Give the mothers food stamp, welfare, and everything. Keep the dad out the house. And if you ain't got no dad in the house, then the whole family structure is gone, bro. So I mean, I love everything the doctor said, man. I appreciate this conversation from the bottom of my heart. Man.
Thank you for calling in, Brother Tim. We appreciate you, brother. You too can join in on the conversation. 225-250-8770, 225-250-8770. And Dr. Blake, listen, since your mom still live in Shreveport, is she still in Port City?
No, she's in New York City. My family, we're all up here in New York. Shout out to her, my father. He met her at North Carolina Central, but she was a Southern University grad.
Come on, go Jags. So with that being said, We're going to listen. I'm going to do everything I can, Dr. Blake, to either get to you or you need to get you and your mama and your family back to us down here at Southern
I'll
University
take care of
for
all that,
homecoming.
Joe. I'll take care of all that. I got you, brother. We're going to take
Oh,
care of this. We're going to take care of this because this is so important. And, you know, and it's just not dedicated to just one place. And I smile, but this is, and, you know, I smile, but this is the work we've been doing for a long time. I mentioned his father, and shout out to your father, brother,
Yes,
Professor Blake, because I remember, even though I was standing upright, I remember meeting you and meeting another young brother who also became an educator during those Million Man March meetings. I remember this, but I'm smiling because, and you know, Sister Jax, you in Brick City, you in Newark, New Jersey.
Mhm.
We've been living this for a long time.
That's right.
It's just some of the rest of the world has not just been exposed to this. And this is what I'm trying to say. And this is, and it's, I try not to even mention me, but we go back to other people that push. I mentioned Dennis Walcott to this brother here. He knows who Dennis Walcott is. Dennis Walcott, who headed up the New York Urban League, who became a deputy mayor under Mike Bloomberg administration, then became the chancellor. He's the one that pushed me, even though I believed in my children and being involved in my children. And I just was like, thought joining the PTA was it. He called me back and said, Fatin, that's not it. You got to be on school leadership. You got to affect the curriculum in your daughter's elementary school, PS 140, the Duke Ellington School in Jamaica, Queens.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? So this is the people. That's why I mentioned about when I brought Principal Confele on and then brought him out to our school, brought Isaac Hayes and Lenny Green from the Quiet Storm to the school, not only for the children and the teachers and the parents, to say that you are important and that the people that you look at and you hear on the radio, you see on the television, the work they're doing, that they realize that you're so important that they will take time out of their schedule and come to you. And that's what we got to realize. What is a priority to us as a people? And we need to do this. It's about us and it's about we. It's not about I. Remember that.
That's right. And you know what, Doc, I love also what you're doing, because when we talk about knowledge and you talk about, you know, inserting knowledge within the minds and hearts and souls of these children, what you're doing also is, and then you're teaching them to think, right? So we know that wisdom is the application of knowledge.
That's
so
right.
when you're allowing these children from K to 12 gain wisdom, and they can go so much further with wisdom, you know, because I mean, like even when I do my art therapy with my, you know, students who are on house arrest and, you know, gangbanging, stealing cars and stuff, at the end of every class, I say, what do we need, y'all? And they always say wisdom, right? Walk with wisdom. That's like a recurring theme, you know. So just to see you implementing so much knowledge and giving them wisdom that the kids don't even realize that they're gaining wisdom, you know, and the child can lead the way. So even their parents could then look and learn from the children and still gain that wisdom. So I love what you're doing, because what you're doing is the ripple effect will last beyond your lifetime and your children's lifetime. So
well, that's the goal. That's the goal. It's not about me. It's about what happens. Like only thing I want to do, and my collective group wants to do, we don't want to be the weak chain in the link. We know that we stand on a foundation that predates us, all the greats like your Dr. Adelaide Sanford, you know, Dr. Claude Anderson, all these, Dr. Henry Clark. We come as part of that chain. And
whoa, hold on. You mentioned some names. Tell people, because since we're talking to people around the country,
okay,
they don't know who Dr. Adelaide Sanford. That's oh my God, that powerful sister. Tell people who Dr. Adelaide Sanford
is. You know, this is a hard one to actually describe her because she is that phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
Dr. Adelaide Sanford. She started off as a principal in Brooklyn. The school was Crispus Attucks, right? And she took, which was the lowest performing school in the city of New York, and made it number one. She later on became the first Black regent in the state of New York, which is they're the ones that create all the policy for children, everything from graduation rates to testing and assessments. Then she became the vice chancellor of New York State. She, along with others, pushed in the 90s for what was called the curriculum of inclusion. And it was really what we're doing now.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say is that we picked up the baton from her and those like her. She is, if you ever have the opportunity in YouTuber, Dr. Adelaide Sanford, if you ever have the opportunity to hear this woman speak, I'm telling you, you feel like you need to stand up. She royal, regal. You feel the spirit of God coming through this woman. She is, I think, 99 years old now. Still has all her wits, and is still on her dean, still fighting for Black educators, Black children. And so there's not too many people who are doing things significant in educators in education in New York City that hasn't sat at the feet of Dr. Adelaide Sanford.
Come on now.
So there's a gentleman, Dr. Lester Young. He's the president now of the Board of Regents. He is one of her students, and the name goes on and on and on. And so I just wanted to say that, our work is legacy work. Legacy from which was passed down to us by the elders, and then the legacy that we're going to pass on to the next generation. I sit here as a representative of a collective group. I would love at some point for y'all to come onto one of our Zooms so you can see this beautiful community called BU, right? I'm a leader amongst leaders. And again, the reason why we're effective is because we understand the concept of no big I's and little U's. We're working collectively, right? And that's the secret sauce.
Yes.
So when that brother said, he said something very powerful. He said, this could save the world if we got behind it. So if we work in a collective way to get behind this and unify, it will definitely be impactful. And then just as this is just a like I said, one slither of the things that we do, like Brother Fatin has said, it's not just education.
Come on.
Right? We got, it's economics, it's housing, it's all these other things. But if we all organize in a way with each group, so imagine if all the educators unite and they organize, and then all the people in politics, and all the people who deal with social services, all your economic people who are bankers, if we all united, and then we picked one representative from that group, and then united along the different industries.
Come on.
Real change. I gotta say this. I was talking to Fatin the other day, and I was listening to Reverend Al Sharpton talk about this boycott. Like, that's an example, right? Like, we don't like the fact that all these industries, I heard McDonald's today and another one, they're all pulling out of DEI.
Correct.
The black dollar. If we take that money and instead of use that money to continue to enriching people who are making policies that are destructive to our community, if we redirect those resources and put that money into supporting these Black businesses so that they can get more powerful and stronger, that's the danger.
Of course.
Knowledge is going to change.
And Dr. Blakes, man, I could sit at your feet all day and just listen. We have to understand that this thing that we say, and it's a cliche as saying, but the truth about it is there's truly no substance behind it. In 80% of the times when we do it, we talk about unity in our community. Yes. And the truth about it is it sounds good until we have to implement it. See, we're good at saying a lot of things that sound good, that make people start saying, yip, yip, hooray, and all this. But when it comes down to the implication of it, like, for example, I think the power of the boycott is one of the most powerful things that we have in our toolbox. But the problem is getting individuals to stand behind the boycott and stand until it gets to the end and we accomplish what we set out to accomplish. The problem is so many times, and I have to go back to Chris Morant that was on this show. Sister Jax brought him on here. He said something that was deep. He said, we start a lot, but we finish very few things. And that is the problem. And until we get some real unity in our community, because our biggest opposition most of the times is not non-melanated folks. Our biggest opposition is those non-melanated folks that are disguised looking like you and I, that are embedded in our community, that their whole sole purpose is to disturb, disrupt, and cause confusion when a Dr. Shango Blake shows up and says, let me show you the way to save our children. No, then there stands up one of us that looks just like us, either male or female, because all of a sudden this will interfere with their economic flow and their connection to the non-melanated community that they have been implanted in our community to be nothing but a disruptor. And that, my friend, is why I applaud Brother Fatim wearing that Black Lives Matter shirt. Actually, when people yesterday made comments about, oh, Black Lives Matter has been more a disruptor and a confusion causer in our community. No, Black folks who look Black like you and I, but really have the heart of non-Black folks that are in our community, they have been the disruptors, the confusers, and the people who have caused problems within our communities. We need too many of us who look like us, but don't act like us, but act like them, to step back and start understanding. Either you're going to be Black or you're not going to be Black. Choose a side.
That's right. And you know what, Joe? It's so unfortunate that no matter what we talk about, certain people are always going to hone in on what they want to say, right? So if you say Black Lives Matter, folks got to be like, all lives matter. If you say I want to talk about teen pregnancy, they'll say, well, what about old people pregnancy? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always something. We don't have to talk about everything as a collective. It's okay to talk about one specific area on a micro level and then, span out on a macro level. But people get so touchy and crazy about it. So we just got to really focus on what we're focusing on and put the pedal to the metal and handle business. That's what.
Okay, let me just say this. Let me just say this real quick, and then because we're gonna have to end on time today.
Okay.
With people got to realize, and some people think, and I get it, because I don't want to criticize those that do the work. For instance, I think Eddie Bonnet or Douglas Guidry, and that's what Joe was talking about, the Black Lives Matter situation. But the situation is, you're doing good work, and I get it, but sometimes your work doesn't go so far. The ceiling is here, and you're here. So that's why I say sometimes you first got to stand up, and you got to stand up and be Black if you're Black. And then when you transcend that, then you got to just stand up and be. That's why if those that follow the scriptures, when Moses came upon the burning bush, and he asked, who should I say sent me? What did he say, Sister Jax?
You already know. My Father.
Yeah. So tell him he didn't put a title on it. So you got to realize
I am.
Say that I am that I am.
Exactly. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, before you get there, you got to go through the stages. And you cannot eliminate a stage. You got to stand up. And then if you're a Black man or a Black woman, then you got to stand up and be a Black man and a Black woman, because you got to understand who you are. And then when you transcend that and just stand up and be, now you're operating on a higher level. But a lot of people want to run from their Blackness because they make other folks uncomfortable, or they're uncomfortable with being around those folks and standing up and being the Black man and Black woman that you are. And that is the problem. And that's why I said, I don't scratch where it don't itch. Have I been there? Oh, I've been there before, but it was a growing process. That's why I look at 2025. We don't have time to play with these games. We don't have time to play. I don't have time to worry about your feelings. If the truth need to come out and your ancestors did this and they did that, I don't have a problem saying it. I don't have a problem saying to my brothers and the sisters that are doing things wrong in the community, wake your asses up, or we'll make an example of you. We'll get you out of here.
Mhm.
because this is a steamrolling machine or movement, as my brother said, Dr. Blake, a movement that anything gets in our way, we rolling over you. And
That's
we
right.
got to take that mentality. Brother called Kwame Ture. I was one of the blessed. Stokely Carmichael, who became Kwame Ture. I was one of those privileged to see him because we went to Harlem to see him on his deathbed, to still get jewels. He's on his deathbed and still developing jewels. I hope y'all know who Kwame Ture is,
Mhm.
because he was with Dr. King. He's the one that came up with the Black Power slogan.
Snick.
You understand? So you got to understand that the common denominator back then, you got to realize everybody was not part of the civil rights organization.
That's
There
right.
was a lot of Black people that were not part of anything, but there was a lot of other organizations doing the work that needed to be done. Now we're dumbed down to the point we have a very few organizations. We don't have the type of energy in a sense of numbers of young people, but let's be careful, because we criticize young people, but they're doing the work. They just don't get the platform.
That's right.
They don't get the platform because they are doing the work. Because I remember when you, Brother Blake, brought on some young educators. Oh my God, dynamic. You brought on a sister and a brother too. Oh man, everybody you brought on was just dynamic. That's why we got to stop criticizing and start working together. And when we start working together, you'll start to see the building of a network. And then you'll start realizing there's somebody in Louisiana doing this work. I didn't know Joe before. We met in the radio business. We didn't meet in no Black Power meeting.
Very true.
No Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter didn't even exist when me and Joe met. You understand? So what I'm saying is, folks, you can't just talk about it. You got to be about it. And a lot of time you want to watch TikTok. You want to watch social media. Here's somebody heavy and then you think you heavy. No, you got to read. You got to listen. Because as Sister Jackson, and I'm going to go back to that in my closing thoughts today, that you got to apply. You got to do the work. Because this brother here is called Dr. Shango Blake. Like I said, when I met him, he put in the work to get where he's at. Joe has put in the work where he's at. Sister Jackson put in the work. And you can start wherever you're at. Some people will be put in the spotlight, and some people will be working behind the scenes. Just like a caboose. It's as important as that engine on that whole train, because that train is moving. And if we're going to be that train for the upliftment and liberation as a people, we got to become unified and play the roles and go down the lanes that we need to go down and understand that we all important to our success.
I just want to thank you for having me today. And I want to say that, I feel empowered by this conversation. It reminds me of how BU has been organically evolving. You just said it, Brother Fatim. Listen, you come in a community with people in different ways. And in so doing, you grow as an organization, you grow as an individual. So one of the things that I would strongly suggest to the listening audience, I'm going to go back to Kwame Ture, is as you evolve and as you develop, find people who share your vision and your core values and come into community with them. Join an organization that you believe is speaking to the things that are important to you, and then move as a collective unit as opposed to you just being one person out there. That's the difference between just having an opinion and having impact.
Wow. Doc, we appreciate you. It's 4 minutes to the top of the hour. I actually was going to give you some closing comments because we were trying to get Jax back. She had froze up. Brother, it has been a privilege, an honor, and a pleasure to make your acquaintance and have you on hashtag Truth Be Told. Absolutely. And I don't want this
with you.
Hey, we will connect. And I thank once again Brother Fatim using his way of connecting folks. I'm gonna start saying Fatim. I'm gonna start going every time you come on. I'm gonna start playing Conjunction Junction. Watch your function. Cause that you gonna take my old name. That's why people used to look at me and say, man, Joe Conjunction Junction. He connecting people. So, you know, man, we are blessed, highly favored to have you on here, man. May the blessings of the Most High stand with you, be with you, continue to cover you from the top of your head to the soles of your feet. Man, give us some closing words. Hopefully Jax will be back, because I know Brother Fatim got to get up out of here. But Dr. Shango Blakes, God of Thunder, God of Thunder. Look that word up, God of Thunder, because he gave some real education. Jax is back, but we're going to let Dr. Blakes, the God of Thunder, give us some closing words right here on hashtag Truth Be Told. The floor is yours, Dr. Blake.
No, again, I just want to say to you, Jax, Brother Fatim, thank you again. Brother Fatim and I, we go back, like I said, some 30 years. This brother has always been a soldier on the front line. So when he speaks with that passion, he's deserved the right to say exactly what he says and how he wants to say it. You know, we're just going to continue to do the work, continue to push the agenda. Again, we are based out of New York. We have eyes towards becoming a national organization, and we're in process as it relates to that. So we invite you not to just, you know, hear me, but come find out about BU, because we have BU members in other states who are members. We have online meetings, so you can get involved and you can begin to think about what chapters you want to organize in your part of the country. I did leave the Black Studies curriculum. I put it in the chat.
I got it. Got it, sir.
You know, so you know, anybody can download that and you can begin to you know, teach it in your locality. And I'm going to drop one more thing in the chat. If anybody's interested in learning more about BU, I want you to also have that link. So okay. I'm going to drop that in right now. And again,
we'll get it out there to everybody, Doc.
Yeah, it's been an honor. It's been my pleasure. And let me say this, it's uplifting. Because when you're a soldier in this, we can all agree, Brother Fatim, sometimes you get weary. So to come into space with other like-minded individuals, it's like a coal next to a bunch of other coals that are already on fire. You get reignited. So thank you again.
Stay right here with us. Stay right here. Don't log off yet, brother. Don't log off yet. Go ahead, Sister Jax. Give us your closing thoughts.
Yes, so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Blake, for joining us today. We definitely appreciate you. I look forward to connecting with you and, you know, also implementing some of your curriculum along with my curriculum. So phenomenal. Great job, Brother Fatim. And thank you for doing the work. Everybody on the show, everybody in our chat, everybody that's not even tuned in or logged into the chat, thank you so much. We know you're watching. We appreciate you. And thank you for doing the work. And if you haven't started doing the work, it's never too late to begin the work. So just do it sincerely and righteously. So we're closing out for the day. And if nobody told you they love you, y'all know who loves you. Who loves you, y'all? Who loves you? Who loves you? Sister Jax. Sister Jax loved you. That's right. Sister Jax loved you. You guys be safe, be blessed, and put the pedal to the metal. Peace out. Love y'all. Brother Fatim.
All right, but you bring us all back up, Joe. You know, for me today, I got to talk to all of y'all. You know, because so Professor, I'm calling your father, Dr. Shango Blake. A shout out to your father, Professor James Blake, and your moms and your family as well, my brother. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for being that leader. Thank you for changing my mind on certain things when it came down to uniform, because you know you did this before it became a policy in New York. And you know, I called up at the time the Board of Education, now it's the Department of Education. I called them out on their lack of doing what they needed to do. And I thought that they stood behind a uniform curriculum where they didn't deal with the lack of books, the updating of books, and some students being, including my daughters in elementary school, being given Rexograph sheets because they didn't have the books. So thank you, brother, for doing what you do. And he have touched so many students. And I think that they, you know, and I just got so many shows that I think we can do that when we had Principal Kafele on, and same with Dr. Shango Blake. We need to reach back out to their students that are now adults and let them come on and share how they made a change in their lives and made their lives better. So I'll end with this right here. As we close out this, I must say, enlightening episode of hashtag Truth Be Told, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our special guest, my brother, Dr. Shanko Blade, for his insights and passion surrounding the Black Influencers United, BU, and the transformative impact of the Black Studies curriculum now implemented in the New York City public school system from pre-K to grade 12. This is not just about education. This is about liberation, empowerment, and building the foundation for a brighter future. As Sister Jax so wisely reminded us, wisdom is an application of knowledge. Wisdom is an application of knowledge. It's not enough to simply acquire knowledge. We must act upon it with intention and purpose. It's our duty as a community.
That's right.
To take what we know and use it to uplift, educate, and empower both our children and ourselves. Our collective progress hinges on our ability to unite, share resources, and be consistent in our commitment to excellence. Let's continue to work together to dismantle the barriers that hold us back and plant seeds of greatness in every corner of our communities. As we empower our children with the truth of who they are and where they come from, let us also challenge ourselves to grow and evolve as adults, setting the example of unity and wisdom in action. Remember, our success is tied to our collective effort. Together, we can create the change we wish to see. Those are my final words today. Be good, be safe, and be blessed, my brothers and sisters.
And
Listen, y'all, once again, Dr.
That's
Blake,
right.
on the behalf of Brother Fatim, Sister Jax, this trio that we call hashtag Truth Be Told, on this Tell the Truth Tuesday, we definitely told the truth. I always end the same way, and I'm going to end it the same way today. Be better today than you were yesterday. Do something today to be a blessing to someone, somewhere, that no matter what you do, there's no earthly way they could ever pay it back to you because you gave it freely, not expecting anything back. You just wanted that person you gave it to be better themselves. And always remember, keep this in your back of your mind, put it in your heart, and travel everywhere you go with this. There is no secret what God can do. What he has done for others, he will and he can do for you. For when God is with you, nothing or no one can stand against you. Tomorrow we'll be on for Work It Out Wednesday. This is hashtag Truth Be Told. Y'all have a blessed day. We out of here. Peace.
Peace.
It's such a foreign feeling, but to feel safe with you. You gave my love a reason when you came out the blue. Was it the time or the place or the look on your face when you told me that you love me? Yeah. I swear your love ain't the same. Now there's no other way to say love of my life, the only one I see, the better part of me. Nobody can compete. No, love of my life, this love won't ever leave. Just put your trust in me, yeah. I'll be all you need, yeah.
Love is mad, babe. Pulling fast with no warning. Was afraid, now I'm open. All these feelings were dormant. I imagine we were one before time came, and the stars came to learn our names. Was it the time or the place, or the look on your face when you told me you loved me? And I swear no love is the same, and there's no other way to say love of my life.
The only one I see, the better part of me. Nobody can compete. Love of my life. This love won't ever leave. Just put your trust in me, yeah.